If you didn't grow up in the 1960s, most of these songs will sound like brand new discoveries. But if you did, they're muscle memory. In this video, we're counting down 12 R&B tracks that lived on real radios, real jukeboxes, and real heartbreak, not just on nostalgia playlists. Coming in at number 12, Cowboys to Girls by The Intruders. This is one of those songs that lived on real 60s radios, not just greatest hits CDs. Cowboys to Girls is a simple little story about growing up, playing pretend as kids, then suddenly noticing each other for real. The hook is easy, the groove is light, but the feeling sneaks up on you. On Philly stations, this thing was everywhere. House parties, school dances, late night shows where the DJ sounded half asleep until this record woke him up. The vocals are sweet, but a little rough around the edges, like real people, not polished TV stars. If you grew up in that era, you don't just remember the chorus. You'll remember where you were the first time you slow danced to it or heard it crackling out of a tiny transistor radio. For everyone else, it's, oh yeah, I think I've heard that. But 60s kids never forgot. Number 11, Be Young, Be Foolish, Be Happy by the Tams. This wasn't just a song. It was a philosophy blasted out of car radios and beach town jukeboxes. Be young, be foolish, be happy is pure 60s permission slip. Stop worrying, dance, fall in love, make a few mistakes and deal with it later. The beat has that Carolina beach music sway. Half soul, half boardwalk. The kind of groove that pulls you onto the floor even if you swore you were just watching. For 60s kids, the first Be Young, Be Foolish, Be Happy hits.
Be young, be foolish.
And you're not in the present anymore. You're right back in some crowded hall or beach pavilion, sweating through a slow spin with someone you hoped would never forget your name, holding down the number 10 spot. Dry Your Eyes by Brenda in the Tabulations. This one didn't just play in the background. It hung in the air like fog after an argument. Dry Your Eyes is pure Philly heartbreak, with Brenda Payton sounding like she's holding it together by a thread, while those male backing vocals echo every line like friends trying to comfort you when failing. The production is bare bones, little organ, little drums, nothing flashy, so every crack in Brenda's voice feels louder. This was a slow dance and sit on the edge of your bed and stare at the wall record at the same time. Younger listeners might scroll past this, but for those who grew up in the 60s, the first Dry Your Eyes still hits like the end of a chapter. And if that's the sound of finally letting the tears fall, the next song is what it feels like to walk around with the pieces afterward. Taking the number 9 spot, What Becomes of the Brokenhearted by Jimmy Ruffin. This is one of those songs that didn't just play on the radio, it sat with you. Jimmy Ruffin's voice sounds like someone trying to walk through the day while their whole world quietly falls apart. The strings swell, the drums stay steady, and that chorus feels like a question nobody really knows how to answer. In the 60s, this was the soundtrack for bus rides home after a breakup, for staring out rainy windows, for pretending you weren't about to tear up at the kitchen table. It wasn't the flashiest Motown hit, but it was one of the most human. People who grew up with this record don't just remember the melody, they remember the exact feeling of hearing What Becomes of the Brokenhearted and realizing for the first time that adults hurt just as much as kids do. Landing at number 8, The Sweeter He Is by the Soul Children. This one feels like church and heartbreak at the same time. The Sweeter He Is starts slow, with the voices almost whispering the story. Then layer by layer, the harmonies stack up until it sounds like a whole congregation pleading with you. The band plays like they're reacting to every word. Organ swells, drums answering the vocals, bass walking underneath like a heartbeat that won't calm down. If you grew up in the late 60s, you remember that long fade out, the voices still begging as the song disappears into static. For everyone else, it's just another old track, but 60s kids know this one in their bones. Number 7, Baby I'm Yours by Barbara Lewis. Some songs feel like they were written to live on slow dance floors, and this is one of them. Baby I'm Yours floats in on that soft, chiming intro, and Barbara Lewis's voice almost sounds like she's afraid to breathe too loud in case the moment breaks. No shouting, no big key change, just this gentle promise stretched over a perfect little melody. Back in the mid-60s, this was the record that came on at school dances, wedding receptions, and living room radios when things finally got quiet for the night. People who grew up in that decade don't confuse this with anything else. The first, Baby I'm Yours, hits, and suddenly you're back under dim lights, holding on a little tighter than you meant to. But before we drop into a song that feels like a confession you were never supposed to hear, hit like and subscribe to support the channel so we can keep digging up the tracks only 60s kids truly remember. Number 6, Tell It Like It Is by Aaron Neville. This is confession-level soul. Tell It Like It Is sounds like someone finally giving up on pretending they don't care.
No, deep down inside of me.
Aaron Neville sings like every word costs him something. Soft, trembling, but completely direct. No fancy metaphors, no hiding. If you want me, say it. If you don't, let me go.
And I'm not a little poor.
It wasn't the loudest or flashiest hit of the decade, but it stuck to people. If you grew up in that era, you don't just remember the chorus. You remember that tight feeling in your chest the first time you heard someone be that honest on a record. Crashing in at number 5, You Cheated by The Shields.
You cheated.
This one technically belongs to the tail end of the 50s, but it lived well into the early 60s on real jukeboxes and late-night radio.
You cheated. You lied.
You Cheated is pure slow burn regret. The lead voice comes in tired and stunned, repeating, You cheated, you lied.
You cheated. You lied.
Like they still can't believe it happened. The harmonies slide in behind him, smooth but not slick, and the band barely moves. No big fills, no tricks, just enough rhythm to keep the hurt marching forward. For a lot of 60s teens, this was the sound of that first real betrayal.
You lied.
It played in diners when everyone had gone quiet, in parked cars where nobody knew what to say next, on tinny transistor speakers under blankets. Younger listeners might hear it as just another old doo-wop tune, but the ones who grew up with it remember every word. Number 4, He Will Break Your Heart by Jerry Butler.
He don't love you.
Before Only the Strong Survive, there was this one, quieter, gentler, and somehow even more devastating. He Will Break Your Heart is Jerry Butler in full counselor mode, warning someone about a man who's no good while you can hear he's a little bit in love with her himself.
He did, he wouldn't break your heart.
The arrangement is pure early 60s Chicago soul, light rhythm, soft backing vocals, and a melody that walks instead of runs. Back then, this was grown folks radio.
He says the things I I wish I could say.
It played in living rooms where parents were paying bills at the table, and in cars where older cousins tried to act like the lyrics didn't hit them too hard. Now, you play those opening lines, and 60s babies don't just sing along. They mouth every word like a warning they once ignored. And if that sounded like a quiet warning in the corner of the room, the next song is what happens when you step into the center and put your whole heart on the line. Cracking the top 3. Stay in My Corner by the Dells.
Love me, so darling, stay.
This isn't just a love song, it's a whole event. The long version of Stay in My Corner stretches past the usual radio runtime, and that's the point. You're meant to live inside it for a while.
Stay, I love you.
The Dells take their time. Soft opening. Then those huge harmonies roll in, and by the time the high notes hit, it feels like the whole room is holding its breath. In the late 60s, this was serious grown folks territory. It played at weddings, anniversaries, and we need to talk nights when nobody was sure how things would turn out. Teenagers heard it over speakers at parties and realized there was a whole other level of slow jam they hadn't grown into yet. If you grew up back then, Stay in My Corner doesn't just ring a bell. It brings back a face. Runner-up at number 2, When a Man Loves a Woman by Percy Sledge.
When a man loves a woman.
This one isn't just a song, it's a memory trigger. When a man loves a woman comes in with that organ swell, and you already know someone's about to bleed all over the mic. Percy Sledge doesn't sound like he's performing. He sounds like he's falling apart in real time, clinging to a love that's slipping through his fingers. The horns punch in, the drums stay simple, and everything wraps around that voice. In the mid-60s, this was everywhere. On kitchen radios while dinner cooked, on car speakers during long silent drives, on jukeboxes in bars where no one pretended not to feel it. It was the slow dance you never forgot, or the record you played alone when the lights were off. If you grew up back then, the first line doesn't just start a song, it drops you straight into your own history. Topping the list at number 1, It's All Over Now by the Valentinos. Most people under a certain age hear that opening riff and think Rolling Stones. But if you grew up in the 60s, you know the truth. This was Bobby Womack and the Valentinos first. Their 1964 version is rawer, looser, and way more church meets street corner than the British cover that came after. The guitars snap, the groove lopes along, and Bobby sounds half angry, half relieved as he lists every way this relationship went wrong. The Stones took this global, but the Valentinos made it personal. If you were there the moment that first lick hits, you don't see Union Jack suits. You see a worn 45, a local station, and the exact face that made those lyrics hit so hard. That's our list. If any of these took you straight back, hit like, subscribe, and tell us which one you grew up with. And when you're ready to rewind even further, go watch our next video on 12 songs only those who grew up in the 1950s remember.